Hi, my name is Nicole. I'm a commercial model, and today we are going to discuss model to model, how to handle nervousness, what to do with our face, what to do with our hands, and how to move our body. How to break nervousness. So of course, all of us are going to be nervous when we go on set. You have nervousness whether or not you're going to an audition or whether or not you're going to be at a job, if you're a beginning model or if you're an experienced model. Nervousness happens just to whatever degree, it just varies. But how do we break that? The biggest thing is, especially if you're a beginner, is to make sure that you're exuding confidence. Even if you don't feel the confidence, you want to make sure that you present the confidence. First, you want to start with your face. Make sure that you have a smile on your face. Not like a cheesy smile, but like a pleasant smile, as if you are happy to be there. If you go on set and you have a face like this, and you have posture, the casting director is, one, going to see that you don't have the confidence just to be at the audition, and also is going to wonder about your attitude when you're there. That'll make you a less likely candidate to get chosen because how you act before the audition is often viewed and noticed and accounted for. So what can you do about it? The first thing you want to do, besides the smiling, is to make sure that you have a proper posture. So a lot of times when we're nervous, we don't realize that we're doing it, but we immediately start having almost a defensive posture. We may slouch a little bit, our shoulders start to hutch in, our head dips a little bit, we start to get like the little bend in the neck. It just makes us seem very unconfident. The first thing that you want to do is pull yourself up. Imagine that right here, there's a hook right here in your chest, and this hook is pulling you up and is being held from the ceiling. It's going to pull your body from your legs all the way up. So you should feel this entirely all the way through your spine instead of just one of these. This automatically can make you appear to be more confident even if you aren't. And that's the biggest key when you're on set, is even if you're not confident, making sure that nobody knows it. Essentially, you don't want to have the deer in the headlights look. But you want to just take your eyes and make them a little bit, like just imagine that you're closing them a little bit, but you can feel the movement from the cheeks. If you're doing it correctly, you will feel it up here. So you go from the, to a, and then sometimes you can do it in ways that can come off like more demure. You can just look to the side and then look up. And then often a giggle helps. A lot of people do the giggle. The giggle truly does help. Some of the best photographers that I've worked with can get you into a mood. Well, they'll say, give me a smile, and then you smile, and then they ask you to drop it. So when you drop that smile, they're able to capture what's the real smile. So you can just like, and then you settle on a real smile, which often gets rid of that nervous, fake, almost fake smile that you often see. So you have something that's very natural, even though you're creating an expression. Something else that's very important for models is to make sure that they have a repertoire of emotions ready. So they're gonna have to practice in front of a camera. You can either videotape yourself so that you can reference this for later. This makes a lot of beginners uncomfortable. I know when I first started modeling, seeing pictures of myself always made me cringe, but it's the best way that you get to know yourself. If you can't see the awkward positions that you're in, you can't improve upon them. So never be afraid of videotaping yourself and then watching your, like just cringing at some photos, but knowing you're gonna glean something out of that later. So for instance, you want to make sure that besides just the typical smile, you can also have expressions. something like anger, or just joy, or just other fun expressions. You want to make sure that you're doing things with your face that are going to create a story. You don't want to just have the same face every single time. For modeling, for commercial modeling, you probably will want to practice often different types of smiles. Often they're not going to want to see something that's too extreme. They typically aren't going to want to see like faces of anger or faces or like sorrow or anything like that, because they're trying to sell a product and they want nice, happy people. That being said, work on your smile in the mirror. So over time, your muscles will remember how to do it just on a whim, and just all kinds of smiles. You can practice like the sultry smile, the happy smile, and then the joyful smile. That's usually just a playful look. That's where I would begin. The biggest thing is practice, 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 practice. If you can't practice your emotions, you cannot master them over time. So next I want to talk about hands. What do you do with hands when you're on set? I think hands sometimes can be the most awkward thing to do, because we're never thinking about our hands until suddenly you're on set and you're like, what do I do with these appendages? So I think something that we can remember to do is our hands are just as much a part of our expression as our face and the rest of our body is. And you have to remember that our hands communicate certain messages. For something like this, if you have your hands balled up together, you rarely want to do this. This typically means fear or anger. And unless you're directed to have those emotions, you usually don't want to do that. What you often want to do is elongate those hands. You don't want to have the bird claws. So you can see the huge difference between like if I'm doing one of these or if I'm doing like one of these. So that brings it to the point of the gentle touching. You never want to like straight up hold, almost look like you're punching yourself, but instead have like a gentle touch. So you're just barely touching yourself. So there's no harsh movements. And especially if you're doing beauty shots, you want to make sure that you are very gentle when you come to these touches. When you have the beauty shots, they are going to be checking for the makeup, checking for the different features that you have, and you never want to have like this. You may want to do something like this, but never so hard that you're pushing that cheek out, distorting your face. That is extremely important. Something else that you might want to keep in mind is when your hands are on your hips. You never want to have your hands back like this. One, it conveys a message that you may be a little afraid. It's pushing your shoulders forward. It's taking, it's distorting your posture a little bit. Again, something that you wouldn't do typically. You'd want to have your hands like this. If you want to make your waist appear to be a bit more narrow, push them in more, really tighten them. And then for something really extreme, really editorial, then you can hunch those shoulders. And you can see that creates a very interesting look. Something else you might want to keep in mind is that hold those fingers delicately. You can see that's a huge difference as opposed to just like resting. You don't actually want to rest your head directly onto your hand. You want to make sure that you can feel the tension right here, because when you feel that tension right there, you know that you're elongating that neck. You never want to do anything where you're almost in a relaxed position when you're at home. So for example, if you're at home and you sit like this, all right? You can see when you sit like this, from my spine back here, from right here, my head's resting heavily on my hand. It's pulling the skin back away from my eyes. You can see more of the wrinkles in the throat because it's not elongated, and you can see the curve of my spine here. Unless you're using that to create a story, you don't want to be so relaxed in the position. Instead, to have the same exact pose, but properly, using all of your body, again, pretending that there's a hook pulling you. Hold like this, gently touch your hand. You should feel your neck right here. There's a huge difference between this and this. And this should create beautiful lines that you want to see in the profile. So the next thing when you're on set is keeping your whole body in sync with each other. So when you go on set, you want to take up as much space as you possibly can. Again, unless directed, if you're on your own, typically you just don't want to like do these little poses like this. You know, even if you have something like a gown, this is a very ladylike prim pose. What people typically don't see is if I'm in a wedding dress or if I'm in a gown, the pose that I'm actually making, which they can't see with the gown, is actually like this. So that allows this skirt to really fold out. The angles that I'm presenting here you want to show as much negative space. A lot of people call them triangles, making triangles out of your body, showing as much negative space as possible. When you do this, this is taking up space. It's making the picture larger, and it's also making yourself larger. And this is much, much better than just like, instead you can do those simple things where you can be like this. You want to do everything that you can with your body to elongate and then make up the space that you can. I hope these tips were helpful for you. If you enjoyed the content that you saw today, please like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.